here.
I think I have. I think I have. Yep. Does everybody have a new one, or you have your computer? So.
I just want to make sure.
Do any of you need the new one?
I'm looking at that.
You have it?
I'm everything.
Yep.
What did you say was different, Andy?
Say again?
What did you say was different?
I'm sorry.
What did you say was different? What?
Oh, on page 1 of it, there's a, if you look at the second bullet,
Okay.
the building permit application fee, I had omitted that before.
Okay,
And it's a significant amount of money, particularly on larger projects.
okay. All right, so this is the one I read. All right, thank you.
Yep. There you go. All right.
Are we ready?
We have all the right papers. Okay. Good to go.
I'd like to share my thoughts on an economic development professional with the board. East Windsor is in competition with surrounding towns for economic development. Economic development requires some very special background and talents to be able to pull together what are the best attributes of the town in an effort to bring to the fore what people who have the ability to place businesses in towns are looking for. There are agencies, both federal, state, and regional agencies. There are people who one must know in order to be able to get them to understand what we have to offer as a town. A bunch of years ago, I was a member of the Economic Development Commission, and I went out and talked to 20 companies in town just to kind of get a survey of what people in town thought of us as a town and as a home for their businesses. Amazingly enough, or good, I guess, it was very positive. People like to live here as a business. In addition to that, I also had the opportunity to go out and talk to 3 economic development directors in our area, one from South Windsor, Windsor, and Enfield. And to a person, they said that if East Windsor is to become a player in our region, we had to have an economic development professional. And Matthew Galligan in South Windsor may have put it best. He said that as an economic development director, and he's now, I think, the town manager, he said that he actually spent between 30 and 45 nights and weekends meeting with people in seminars and get-togethers of all sorts that defined what the state, the region was looking at for growth. And that he personally could make one telephone call and get him to see the governor. I was really impressed with that. Andy Hoffman could call the governor and then they'd send me downtown. But that's good. That's nothing but good. If you have the opportunity to talk to the right people, then you can get our oar in the water. The economic development director or professional has kind of a unique quality. If he or she can develop $2.75 million worth of new taxable assets in a given year, then they pay their salary if the salary is like $90,000. That would make it revenue neutral. For every $1 million they bring in, it reduces our burden as taxpayers by $32,770. So it's an investment. It's not a giveaway. It's an investment in our future. It's investment in our schools, our quality of life, of us moving forward. In addition to that, something I just learned in talking to Rand is that you know, on on all projects, but particularly on big ones, we get a lot of revenue out of what Rand termed as let me get it right, a building permit application fee. Take the new Calamar development, the town, and those fees will get $124,000. Now, should that be something we could attribute to an economic development director, he or she would have paid his or her salary right there. So having somebody who knows who to talk to, where to go, and can inventory our property in town properly to bring companies here is nothing but good. As part of going around and talking to the businesses in town, I was kind of surprised. The people in town were willing to partner with the town to help bring businesses here. I don't know if Larry Tribb will remember or not, but when talking to him, I said, hey, you own a lot of property along Route 5. Would you be willing to help the town by working with us to part with some of that property so that we could bring in good businesses? And his answer was, without hesitation, yes, I would. So we've got to explore those kind of things. But I don't know how to do it, and none of you people know how to do it. It's something that requires a special background, a special skill that's acquired over a bunch of years. And so what I'd like to do is appeal to the board to fund a full-time economic development professional starting in January 2019. That gives us time to do all the right things, and that is to create an RFP, a work statement, a set of goals. I think this person should come in with a known set of measurable goals. They should come in and we should know what we and they expect of them, and we should know whether they've accomplished that or not. That's important. It is a situation where we have to do it in an orderly manner. My background, as you probably know, is out of industry, so I'm not much about knowing about government. But in my business, I worked at Hamilton Standard and I worked in the manned space program. We really sat down and really planned and we really executed what we said we were going to do. If we didn't do that, if we didn't produce a reliable and durable piece of hardware, an astronaut could have died. And so we really worked at that. Now, I would like to tell you people that I will do everything I can if you approve this person to try to bring that discipline to our hiring of this person. If you were to agree to hire a full-time person starting in January, if you notice on the last page, there are a number of milestones, and they start with writing an RFP and goals and things like that, and they end with interviewing and finally hiring a person on December 15th so they can go to work on January 1 or January 2. I think it's important. I think it will, whether we have a casino or not, I think this is an absolute necessity that we have to deal with today. We can't just keep on not doing it, because when we don't do it, other towns will beat us on projects that we might have an opportunity to participate in. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to give you any background that I have on the subject.
Well, and actually, in the budget workshop, 7A, we're going to discuss the economic development director, so if you want to stay, we'll ask our questions.
I'd like to do that.
Okay. Great,
Thank you.
all right,
You're gonna stay?
yeah. Any other public participation?
Bob Light. I want to again repeat that I'm not speaking for the Economic Development Commission, but I'm speaking in unison of being part of that team that wants to help, given the opportunity to invest in an economic development person. And I think the two of us, my background being in marketing and sales management, that's what this town needs to do. We need to sell and market this town and have a 3- and 5-year game plan in order to do that. It's a shame that I have to get a lot of my information and give it out over the Facebook internet, especially what's going on with Zuckerberg right now. But I read with interest Cindy's remarks. We still face this 2% conundrum, no matter what we do. And I think we all agree it would be nice to have a professional, certified financial officer, planner, whatever, to help control costs. But we don't have time to do that right now between now and the next budget. We have a treasurer in place that's an elected position, and we need to get behind, we need to work as a team in order to cut costs. The other point that I took with an interest, I don't think we have spiraling costs. I think we have decreasing state support and funding, and we have decreasing revenues because business is not coming into this town. And in fact, it's hard to keep some of the businesses in town. So in order to, I think, make the investments in the two departments that can be the biggest return on our investment in dollars in the short and the long term, it's both the building department that she referred to, because he's going to need help. And hopefully, if we can invest in a professional developer and put a team effort together to creatively write the job description for that person, make sure that there's a balance of power and that that person is a hired person, not an elected individual that's got control both from the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen. Okay? And in that manner, we can begin to start selling the town and putting some money into the coffers. We want to expand the number of building permits that are required in this town, and I think we can do it. I've got some long-term plans that may or not even require a change in the charter for doing something in terms of planning management, development management, and financial management. But I'm speaking in the short term right now for this next budget, and I'll again repeat my commitment to work in unison with you folks, the Board of Selectmen, the Planning Department, and the Building Department, and the Development Department to help write a marketing program to sell this town for the future.
Anybody else? Public participation? Okey-doke. All right, so next on our agenda is number 5, appointment of Board of Finance member to police negotiation team. They did meet on Monday for some preliminary meeting, and then I believe today. Bob, you met today, right?
Yes, we did.
So they've done it before. It is very enlightening. It is very, I wish I could do it again. Just working now in Farmington, that's just not feasible for me to come back here during, it's mostly days, it's all days, and some long days. So we need a representative, so I'm reaching out to you guys to see who would be interested. And it is a time commitment, it really is. But it's important, it's really important. And like I said, if I could do it again, I would. But I just cannot being where I am.
When do they start?
They already started today, this morning.
I
But we
think
didn't have a meeting
The
until
next
now.
meeting probably won't be until May.
Yeah. They really just had a planning meeting on Monday, right? Or did you even meet Monday? I know
Well,
that
we
you.
met as a team,
Yeah,
and then today we met with the union and the union representative,
Yeah.
And it was just rules, ground rules that
Yeah.
we exchanged.
And our meeting wasn't until today, so we really couldn't just throw somebody in there without being able to. So is there anybody that can make that time commitment, or?
I'd have to hire somebody. And doing this volunteer and
Yeah.
then hiring somebody at the same time is very ridiculous. I lost a lot of money last time.
Yeah. Anybody?
How many days are there? It's mostly days, you say?
Mostly days.
Yeah, I would say 3 days, first 3 days we might meet, and it'll probably go to mid-June, but at 9:30 and probably some of them Mondays, and maybe 2 other days we meet in the afternoon at 2 o'clock.
So like 5?
Possibly, yes.
Might be able to do it. If nobody else is.
It's the wrong time of year for me.
Yeah.
If it was winter time,
Things are growing.
wrong time of year for me.
I mean,
That's not gonna
do it
happen.
now.
Yeah. If you're willing, we'll take you.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
Huh? I don't see, if we have nobody who can do it, he's an alternate filling the alternate position,
What the precedent's been in the past.
so, you know,
Not that he wouldn't be good.
no, I think that you can. We can look into it, we'll make a motion tonight and do it, and we'll double check it. I'll have, talk to Bob and we'll double check it, but if none of the members can do it, you are an alternate filling one of our positions, so kind of makes sense to why we have alternates.
I agree.
Would that be too much common sense? I don't know.
Might be.
So can I have a motion to have Alan represent us on the police negotiations?
Sure, I move to appoint Alan Baker as a member of the police negotiation team.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes, and we will double check if we have to switch it, but I don't think we will have to. All right, okay, so next, many people came to me last time, and this is why we put on number 6, discuss RFP for town attorney. Because we don't do that, it's the Board of Selectmen. Although if we had to use a town attorney, it would be that attorney that we would use. I know that Cindy and Sarah came to me with concerns, others came to me with concerns, so I just want to, since we're in the middle of the budget process and the legal fees obviously are a large part of the budget, I think we should just discuss where we stand, and just make sure, and then just put it to bed for us, because we have no choice anyways, unfortunately, we have no choice in the matter, although I think we need to just make us clear where we stand and then end it for us and they go from there. So, is there anybody that wants to add some input or? Since
I'm concerned that if there's a, if we have a contract that would be breaking, that it might cost money, and just, it would be good to know better what is going on too, just so we know how to budget for it.
Yeah, and I don't think that we would be able to. I mean, I know that everybody, and we can't talk too much about it because I know it became a big hoopla in the Board of Selectmen meeting. That I know that they feel that it's cost savings, but I think that we have an agreement with the attorney, and if the attorney is going to hold us to that, I'm sure there could be some cost implications to that. So as a Board of Finance, I don't know, where do you guys feel? I guess I kind of feel that at least from our perspective, we've already really rejected the idea of putting it out to an RFP. We feel that it's a bad choice. Am I on the right page with all of you?
Yeah.
Okay, so as I was driving back from Providence today, I figured what we would do is, at least from our position, we could do a resolution, something simple. Just something like the Board of Finance by resolution rejects the issuance of an RFP for town council by the Board of Selectmen, and we affirm our satisfaction and believe we should honor our agreement with Pullman and Conley. Simple, and we're done. But we've stated our position, so if somebody would like to move that resolution for discussion.
Yes, just give me a second, because I don't be the next one.
Yeah, now that you say that, now I'm on record.
I'll move that the Board of Finance, I'm not gonna say it in your exact words, but make a resolution that we are against the RFP for town attorney and honor the contract we have with Pullman.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
We have an agreement with a contract and agreement, and we don't want to be the town that breaks that agreement. I just don't think it's appropriate.
Yeah, it
Doesn't look too good.
enter into agreements and then break them. Yes, Cindy, what was your, I'm sorry?
My only concern is that I feel like we don't have all the information. So it would be hard to vote on something, like, there obviously is more to the story.
Especially when a few meetings ago I asked the first selectman if we did have a current contract with our town attorney, and he told me no, and I don't think that was truthful.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion,
Accusing myself,
okay,
or abstaining,
abstaining.
abstaining.
Motion still passes. Did I say all those? Yeah, I did, okay, so motion passes. All right, so on to budget workshop, and we're actually going to go right into what Mr. Hoffman was representing, and that was the economic development position. And then we'll go in order, but when we get to discuss and finalize budget, then it's open floor for whatever else you want to discuss, so that if there's something that you feel we did not, discuss enough, or something that you want to discuss again, that's the time to do it. But these three are the ones that we left open and knew we left open. Okay? Do we want to do what we did last time though, so that we're all like looking at each other and not craning necks? I mean, I can move to the other way, but I feel like
I can if you want.
no, I'm just gonna go over there so I can
Oh,
here.
okay.
I'm gonna get this computer to start, it's just restarted
Uh-oh.
itself, so.
All right, wink, wink. All right, so on to the economic development position. So who wants to start with that? Do we have any questions for Mr. Hoffman or Lori or,
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the rationale for hiring someone as an employee versus using someone like a professional service for hiring, contracting out?
Say it again, please.
What is the rationale behind hiring someone with benefits and everything else versus contracting it out, having a contractor?
My opinion is that if you have someone who is working for us that we can hold accountable for their work, it is better than having a contractor who is loosely tied to us, if you will. If you're an employee, you have a specific understanding of what your job is, and you are, the town can, in effect, hold you accountable for that, whereas in a contractor, I think we're more loosely joined than having an employee, because that person can easily walk away the next time they have a better offer. And there's a lot to be said for history and for background. I'm not at all sure that an economic development person would pay for his or herself in the first year or even in the second year. But as they better understand what we have for land, for inventory, as they better understand what we want to be, then they will pick up and be more effective. Whereas if you hire a person or a company, I'm not at all sure that you have that same relationship.
If I might expand on that a little bit, I think that when you have a full-time person working within the community with the staff, they become an integral part of the community, and they know the nuances and they get to know the people a lot better than if you're here for 3 hours or 5 hours a week. They're going to be able to really spend more time working with the businesses, seeing who needs to expand and how to keep them in town. You know, and I do want to talk about hiring a consultant as an alternative, at least for the time being. But I do think that ultimately having that full-time staff person really does help the town a lot. I mean, nobody's going to know the town better than somebody that's there all the time, talking to the businesses and talking to the people, and you know, just even driving around and seeing the different opportunities that are available.
So a couple of years ago, I think we contracted with a guy. How much was that again?
That was with Roger O'Brien, and I think the original contract was for $20,000.
10.
That's right, yeah.
But it ended up being more, wasn't it?
Right.
It was
I
10.
think
Yeah,
the first year was 20 and the second year
Yeah.
it scaled back to 10.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so
And
What-
last year it was, or this year it's.
What
at
came out of that?
8,500. So, it was very much, he was very helpful in getting the MMCT casino here. If it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't have gotten it, because he's the one that found the right people to talk to, the Walmart property, the Big Y property, and kind of push for the cinema site as well. And he's helped us with some other, the tax abatement program ordinance that we have. He's the one that helped write that, and so he definitely was very useful. Subsequently, he has taken a full-time job, so he is not as available as he was before. So he can help us for special projects at this point, but he can't necessarily be here in the town hall working with us during the day. So.
I mean, I'm all for growth, and I know Mr. Hoffman said that the job would pay for itself over time, but what often happens is we get to the last referendum and the budget still fails and we're stuck at 2%. And we already have contractual obligations, salaries, benefits. So if we're gonna take someone on at that dollar amount with benefits and stuff, what expenses are we going to have to cut in order to hire that person? It's just where I'm at.
All right.
What is the amount, the percentage of benefits per dollar spent? Like is it, you know, for everyone we hire, like 50%?
A family medical plan is $30,000. And they pay somewhere between 11 and 14% of it, the employees do.
Yeah, oh yeah, about that.
So a big chunk of it belongs to the town. So that's probably our biggest cost. That doesn't count the 7.65 of FICA.
Pension.
Because that's probably a
Doesn't
number,
pension.
that's a number we should know whenever we're talking
The
about
problem
hiring
is, as a
someone.
percent of salary, it depends. If you're hiring a
Right.
$90,000 person, it's a lot less of a percentage than if you're hiring a $50,000 person,
Oh, okay.
right? A $50,000
It's a
person,
fixed-
medical
it's all relative
alone
to-
is almost their whole salary.
So some of it is percentage basis, the taxes and stuff.
yeah, so, I mean, in your list of towns and the, you know, comparing the commercial grand list with the percent of it that is commercial and whether or not they have an EC director, you kind of try to point to the fact that, you know, the ones that have an EC director have a bigger grand list. And I guess I would say it probably isn't apples and apples there. I think like in East Windsor's case, probably we don't have as much big open land that doesn't have, that has infrastructure. And to me, our problem is not that we don't have an economic director, economic development director is, the problem is we don't have gas down 140. We don't have infrastructure in place for these big companies to come in, or any kind of businesses for that matter, outside of the, you know, Sophia's Plaza area. You know, if you don't have the gas, if you don't have the infrastructure, they'll just go someplace where there is, which is everywhere else around us. So, I mean, I don't see where an economic development director gets us gas down 140 or any of those types of infrastructure things that we really do need. I don't think that they help us there. And to me, that's the biggest bottleneck or barrier to getting businesses to look at us.
But I think you have to start, excuse me, you have to start someplace. I really believe that there's a whole lot of developable land along Route 5 and along Route 140. You've got to go back, and Route 5 I think is a better target. You've got to go back in off of Route 5, but it's all part of the negotiation, and it's all part of what an economic development person can do for a town. There are needs for infrastructure that no question, you know, are required, but they can come to us and present to us what the alternatives are. Right now, I think that we're hard pressed to understand what the trade-offs are on something like that. Whereas if we brought in a professional who deals with that kind of thing all the time, they would be able to make clear what the cost trade benefit is on that kind of thing. If a company wanted to be located near 91 and near Bradley Field, they might well be willing to fund some of the infrastructure changes. Larry Tribble told me that when he built the large building across the road and it was creating a traffic problem, that he went to the town and state to try to get that road widened in his area, and they would not do it, so he paid for it. So I think it's all part of the big puzzle, and it's just one of the things you have to deal with. But if we don't have that kind of person who can broker those kind of deals, then deals will never happen.
I think one of our problems is revenue and spending increases are two different things. And we still have a charter that can cap us at a 2% spending increase. So whether we take this revenue in and, and all is great, if we were to add up all the new positions in that budget that was presented to us, we wouldn't have been able to afford that with our 2%. It's just, there's two different things, the revenue and the 2% spending increase, and the two don't always come together. And the amount of new positions in that budget was just out of control. Not something this town could take on all in one budget cycle at all. And I don't think that the town would really have an appetite for that.
No, and I think there's things that we could do. I mean, every year the EDC gets $4,000 or $5,000, and that's plenty of money to put together an inventory of commercial land that's available and where it is and what the barriers to development on those parcels are and who's interested in selling, what's for sale. All that stuff could have already been done already. I mean, and so we're like, there's simple things we can do that are cheap and we're not doing, but yet we want to spend $100 grand on somebody that's going to just magically fix everything. I just feel like we have work we need to do.
Well, one of the ideas, and I think it might have been in the Board of Selectmen meeting, I'm not sure where I heard it. Somebody had brought up something at another time, I don't know if it was with your presentation, Laura, but that there was a large bulletin board in the town, or was it you saying in your town hall? I'm not sure, but that there were all the pictures of the land that was available and to lease or the cost and whatever, and they had a large thing in their town hall representing all the stuff that was available and everything related to it. And that's something I would think that isn't, at least some really key ones up on the wall so that when people do come to see Lori or whatever, those are up on the wall showing what's available. That would seem like a simple thing that we're not even doing right now.
But even that's a big job, because if you have parcels of land that are 5 or 10 acres,
Well, I'm not saying every piece that we
No,
have.
I
I'm saying
understand,
like
but,
key
but
pieces.
my point is that that's a big job to inventory land. Speaking as a former member of the Economic Development Commission, we didn't have the skills to do that. And for the most part, except for people like myself who are retired, they didn't have the time to do that kind of thing. For example, if you were fortunate enough to have someone who wanted to bring a company here and needed 30 acres on Route 140, this person, a person in town, would have to, an employee, would have to go out and find people who own, 5, 10, 15, 20 acres, and say, are you people all willing to sell it for $10,000 an acre, or what the right number is? So that's a brokering job. And I don't know who does that. And that's what an economic development person does. In talking to Jim Burke over in Bloomfield, he was talking about when INS, it's now called something else, moved into the Windsor area, that parcel of land that they now occupy was made up of 4 different owners, and that he had to go out and get those owners to agree to pay, to be willing to sell at X number of dollars before they could go forward and get that company in there. So that all by itself is a significant effort, it really is.
Going back to what Alan said, they've only spent $225 year to date, so there's still almost $4,000 in the budget to start.
$650.
You know, I think this, you gotta start, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves and there's still some groundwork that can be done here.
In what line item?
Just in the whole budget. They have $3,000 in professional services that they haven't spent a penny, and education and dues have not been spent at all.
Lori had something to say. I think
And that's
So-
in.
So part of the reason for that is that we had barely a quorum for our Economic Development Commission, so we actually went months without even meeting. We are actually regrouping now, we're getting some new members in, we're getting revitalized. And Bob's has joined us, and Andy is our staff liaison, or Board of Selectmen liaison, so we are actually starting to get some momentum going and some interest and a little bit of direction. I believe that you were sent via email the Economic Development Consulting Services packet from CERC. So what I would like to propose is, since it's probably unrealistic that we would get a full-time person at this time, if we could get some monies to hire this economic development person from CERC, they could help us populate our website. So we have spent money from last year to have our own website separate from the town's website. And going to different economic development courses and stuff, there are certain things that you're supposed to have on there: a community fit matrix, a labor shed map. You could do a SWOT analysis and things of that nature. They could help us populate those things. I have no idea how to do a viewshed map. I'm not sure how to even find the information. So this is the stuff where I'm not trained in this, and and unfortunately, I don't have the time to be doing things like real estate and finding what's available today, and if it's sold tomorrow, how do I find that out? And that means I have to be doing that every day. I barely have enough time to keep afloat of the job as the town planner, as opposed to the economic development director. I try my hardest to do what I can, and I meet with businesses and people that want to come in, and I meet with them, and I try to find the best way to get them developed, but I can't do all of the other things that really need to be done They can help us with development of a marketing plan and branding of the town, assist with networking and business events. They can help us with the self-assessment and conducting surveys. They said they have a survey, like a Survey Monkey or something that they can do. They can help us get reconnected with all of our businesses